Greetings, everyone. Happy Monday. Well, the topic for today, the media. Oh, we love this topic, don't we? Well, I commented on my last video about Donald Trump and how he chose not to go to the little deal that they do in Washington, where the journalists and the politicians all make fun of each other and have a good night. He didn't do that. The Correspondents' Dinner. He chose not to go to the Correspondents' Dinner. I don't blame him. Why would you want to go participate in something with a room full of the very jackals who have been lying about you and trying to destroy you for the past year and a half? I wouldn't. So it was a pretty smart move, I think. Very good move on Trump's behalf. Not allowing CNN into a press briefing was also a good idea. But I think that Donald Trump needs to really, really go all the way. And here's what I mean. To understand a little bit more, let me give you just a little bit of background. We used to have laws when the media was first set up in this country, and the reason that they were given so much leeway, the First Amendment, to say pretty much whatever they wanted to say, is because they were seen as being the watchdog on government. Now, if you go back and read the history, you'll find that George Washington despised the media. You would think that the father of our country and all that George Washington did, that he would have been the one man that wouldn't have had to worry about being beat up by the press. But George Washington was slaughtered in the press daily. He hated them. Thomas Jefferson, slaughtered in the press, despised them. Andrew Jackson, go right on down the line. So, but basically they all believed that it was important enough to have a free media that they were willing to tolerate the abuse that they were taking. And we used to have a law. The law was meant to prevent gigantic monopolies. Excuse me. Today we have 6 media companies. And of those 6 media companies, they control every newspaper you read, every television show you watch, every movie you watch, every book you read. They control about 90% of all the media, with the exception of the independent media and small self-publishers. But in terms of all the bigs and where the massive amount of information comes from, it all comes from the big media. And there are 6 gigantic corporations, most of them part of the military-industrial complex, that own and control the media. This was never supposed to happen. The original laws that we had in this country for many, many years, up until I believe it was 86 or 87, was that no media entity could control or own more than 1 newspaper, 1 radio station, and 1 TV station in each market. That's all you could own as a media source. 1 TV, 1 radio, 1 newspaper in each market. Then, I believe it was the Telecommunications Act of 1986 or 87 that changed all that. And just since that time, instead of having hundreds of small media companies, we now have 6, and they control everything. The Hollywood movie industry, all the major newspapers, all the major TVs, everything. They pretty much, and they would like to get control of the entire internet if they can. They're certainly trying, because that's one thing they don't control, but they never saw it coming. Just like the people in the beginning, when radio first came out, the newspaper industry thought, nah, we don't have to worry about radio. Radio is just a fluke. No one will ever take radio seriously. The same thing happened when TV came along. People thought, no, we've got radio. Radio is legit. TV, anything can be done on TV. Nobody's going to trust TV. We don't have to worry about them, but eventually TV took over radio. And we see the same thing is happening with the internet and independent media. So, this is where we are today. So, my suggestion for Donald Trump is to break up the media monopolies. They now have a trust. Donald Trump, and working with the Congress, needs to impose an antitrust law against the big media. I would be just fine, actually, if they would just repeal the Communications Act of 1987, I believe it was. So that's what needs to be done. The big media companies need to be broken up. They are guilty of antitrust violations if, in fact, we treated the big media conglomerates the way we treat any other gigantic corporate business model. You know, you don't allow monopolies. But right now, what we have is a gigantic monopoly. And a year from now, there'll be 5 companies. And 5 years from now, there'll be 4 companies. And 5 years later, there'll be 3 companies. And pretty soon, there'll be one damn media company that controls all the information that we get. This is the direction we're heading. And I really hope Trump, I know this will be a major step forward, and I know this would, it's not part of his agenda. It would be a major fight. It would be a major amount of political capital that would have to be sacrificed. But man, to go back and roll back the Telecommunications Act of 1987, I believe it was, so we could break up these gigantic media companies, so we could get back to the rules we used to have, where you could only own one radio, one TV, and one newspaper in each market. This would greatly improve the media, greatly, and it needs help. In fact, here's another thing. CNN and MSNBC and the Wall Street Journal, they should be thanking Donald Trump. He's actually could save them from themselves. The fact that he's doing what he's doing is going to force them to clean up their act. If he didn't do anything, they would just continue going on as they are going, and in 10 years they're going to be almost irrelevant anyway, because of the behavior and because of their actions that they're engaged in now. So by Donald Trump forcing them to clean up their act, it may actually allow them to live a little longer in this media environment. But I think it's pretty much maybe a moot point, because I think in the next election, 2018, the media will have less impact than they had in the previous election. In 2020, they'll have less than they had in 2018. In 2022, they'll be less than they had in 2020. So the mainstream media is a dinosaur. It is dying. It is going the same way. Now, it'll always be around, but it will just be, it will no longer have the power. There will no longer be this one gigantic conglomerate of 6 media companies who all basically sit in the same room together and work on the same strategies together. It's really one gigantic media corporation, because they're all in cahoots together. So it really doesn't matter, because unless something is done to heavily regulate the internet or take away people's free speech rights on the internet, or to demote sites on the internet, to go after them, to shut them down, or whatever, to silence them. Unless something is done on that end, if things are left to go just as the way they are going now, in 5 to 10 years, the independent alternative media will be so powerful that it will rival the media. And it's not too far from doing that now, as we saw the impact it had during the this past year's election with Donald Trump. Certainly there was no real mainstream media on his side. You could say possibly Fox, but even Fox, they didn't treat him great. There was a couple people over there at Fox that, Hannity and Brett Baer, and a couple that, were very, very good to Trump. But the majority of the people over there at Fox were not great to Trump. They were, somewhat even-handed. Again, this is all going to play itself out. But the point of the video today is that I would be absolutely thrilled to see Donald Trump launch an antitrust suit against the big media corporations. I would love to see him and the Congress get together and repeal the Communications Act of 1986, or possibly just come up with some new regulations to limit them, to limit the size that they can grow to. Bust them up. Bust up the big media conglomerates. That's what I would do if I was Donald Trump. They want to fight, I'd give it to them. And believe me, you bust up their media monopoly, that's when you'd really see these people shaking in their boots. That's what he needs to do. I doubt it will happen, because he's got too many other things on his agenda. But if he gets to serve 2 terms, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised to see him do that. Or threaten it. Even threatening that would be wonderful. Just to watch the media clowns freaking out at the thought that he was going to break up their big media conglomerates. That would be humorous. So anyway, we'll keep watching it. We all know what's going on. We're watching the death of the mainstream media. It's a wonderful thing. Keep supporting independent media. Keep sharing this information. And if you can, set up your own media corporation. Do YouTube videos. Talk to people. Do whatever you can. Anything that we can do, everything that we can do to drive the media, the corporate media, out of business is what's best for you. It's what's best for me. It's best for our friends and family. It's best for the country. It's best for the world. So it's a war. It's a battle. And we're in it. right up to here. So stay after it, and let's win. Big. Big league. All right, you guys. See ya. Bye.